All right, I'm just going to go over a little bit of some of the things I've seen in your car, and also help describe, help give you a understanding of where the person that was telling you the other bit of the details of the work was leading you wrong, and also just things you should focus on in your car. You can see and hear the oil. That's to be that consistent through all these little sides. That's leakage. Now that's going to be from this. You can see this bolt. There we are. That bolt right there, which means that, this has a connection right here. There's a gasket in this. It wears that over time. It's called a valve cover gasket. It's not a big deal to replace in most cars, unless you got to move a lot of stuff. To get to your back one, yeah, you got to move a lot. Be a big job. So there'd be a little bit of a charge to it, but still, you know how it is with me, not bad. But here, there's even more evidence, even all over the valve cover itself. It's pretty bad with oil. Now, that's not going to affect this car the same way it's affecting that truck. That's where I can explain more things. This is an old design engine. This is GM's 3800 in your Buick. It's very old school as far as the basic design of it. There's been little updates, but as far as the basics of the engine go, this thing is from 1980. The engine in your truck, while being a small four-cylinder, because it's a small four-cylinder, to give it more power, it's rather modern. And it changes how everything is put together. Like, for example, on this, your spark plugs and wires are down here. So even if this thing's leaking, it has to be leaking horribly to even start to affect them. You're not going to get the same evidence on spark plugs in this from the valve cover gasket leaking that you are in that truck. That's what you got going on there. But also, here's the difference in valve covers and heads. I'll show you that. This is the valve cover. As you can see, other than just stuff being in the way, like in the back, it doesn't look like something very difficult. Just a few bolts on top. This little piece comes right off, and the gasket is the little piece in between where it seats and seals. Not a huge job. Now, when you're talking about heads, we're getting into much more of the engine block. In fact, I would say the heads on this are probably about this seam right here. This is extremely critical. This is where your valves are attached to. Once you take this off, you'll see the valve sitting on top of this. And, that's extremely important to the engine. The pistons, while they're not held by this, do run in through this somewhat. And it has to be extremely sealed because coolant and oil and all that are running through it. If you took this apart, that's a head gasket. That's extremely technical. It's a huge job. So the more reason when you tell me the Ranger needed something like that, I was thinking you had a huge job for me, like extremely huge. But again, you have one of these jobs. And even where this one can be a particular pain in the butt, just the way front wheel drives are designed, but also two banks having to do two valve cover gaskets, because when you have two separate sets of cylinders in a V6, this one and that one, you've got two to do. In that Ford, you've got one. Yeah, it's really not a huge job, but one of the reasons it's going to be a little expensive, even from me, is because kind of like this back one, it does have some complex stuff on top that we'll have to take apart. But there's your little thorough thing on stuff you need to work on this, and why what you need on that truck is much different than expected, and will actually be much better because we can get it fixed much easier for much less money. And everybody can come out a winner in that one. And then as far as just some little things I notice, not just big deals, but probably need to be done soon. Now, coils are kind of a lifetime thing. If they're not broke, don't replace them. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So even though these look like they're all original, if they seem to be firing, don't worry about them. But plugs, wires and spark plugs are normal wear items. Highly doubt these have been replaced anytime soon, if at all. because it's very rare to have the actual numbers printed on the plug wires. Usually you just have to kind of measure and make sure you get the right one in the right spot. The fact they're numbered like this suggests they're the ones when this car was built. Man, they're very out of date. Plugs, probably the same thing. But also that wouldn't be a big deal either. In fact, if you do decide to do the valve cover gasket, because of what I have to take apart, that will open up that side, you know, be prepared to that same time, have the plugs and the wires, and I won't charge any extra to do that because we'll already be in that whole area, already have all that, you know, apart and ready to go. But that's something else you should do because I'm pretty certain it's, you know, not ever been done and it's a regular wear item. And that pretty much covers everything. Overall, your engine looks great for one as old as it is. Real good. So yeah, it's just little stuff it needs. One a previous customer with a Maxima that has been a real huge customer so far. The car needed a lot of work, but the only time I would say, you know, you should check out is when it needs something huge like a whole engine, whole transmission. His needed a lot of work, but it didn't need anything like that. This one doesn't just need a whole lot of work, just needs a couple things here and there compared to what he did. The guy's spent over $500 just on me, not counting what he's gotten parts. He spent a lot. But it was still worth it because that pretty much is all that thing needed, and yours needs less than that. What you would spend with me to get this up here perfect would probably be, I'd say, about $200 at most, and then parts would be maybe $100 on top of that, so something more like $300. Whereas that guy probably spent almost $1,000 by now. So yeah, you got a lot to work with. This is overall great shape. Just little things here and there that I'm noticing that I would work on, that you should focus on next.